I recently came across this obscure collection of PC games called the OMG High School Triple Pack 3-Play games with Mean Girls, Clueless, and Pretty in Pink. And I was so excited to play these games. It's not often that you get these girly teen rom-com movies made into video games. Today we're going to look at my favorite of the three, Mean Girls, and compare that to the movie and the book that it's based on. I have so much love in my heart for the original Mean Girls movie. It is hilarious. It still holds up really well 20 years later. And if you have not seen it, you have to watch this movie. It is a classic at this point. But I'll still go through a quick summary to remind you if you haven't seen it in a while. So we've got our main girl, Lindsay Lohan, who plays Katie, and she's going to high school for the very first time.
So it was goodbye, Africa, and hello, high school.
So, they set the scene with how terrible and different high school is. Bumping into people, setting fires, all of that. Normal high school stuff. But luckily, she befriends Janice and Damien, who teach her all about the social structures of high school.
Sexually active band geeks. The greatest people you will ever meet. And the worst. Beware of the plastics. Who are the plastics?
They're teen royalty.
That one there, that's Karen Smith. She is one of the dumbest girls you will ever meet. Christian Wieners knows everybody's business. She knows everything about everyone. Evil takes a human form in Regina George.
She's the queen bee, the star. Those other two are just her little workers.
But Regina invites Katie to sit with them at lunch.
We want to invite you to have lunch with us every day for the rest of the week.
Oh, it's okay. Coolness. So we'll see you tomorrow.
And she slowly begins integrating herself into the plastics, seeing how girl world operates.
Girl World had a lot of rules.
Now, if you break any of these rules, you can't sit with us at lunch.
I just think that it would be like a fun little experiment if you were to hang out with them and then tell us everything that they say.
So Katie floats between the plastics and Janice and Damien until we get to the first big turning point of the movie, which is the Halloween party. Okay, so Katie tells Gretchen and Karen that she's crushing on Aaron Samuels, but...
No, you can't like Aaron Samuels. That's Regina's ex-boyfriend.
But Gretchen tells Regina this anyways, and Regina's like, yeah, I'll totally help you get with him. But then...
Slut!
So Katie runs to Janice and Damien about it, and they have to plan to take Regina down. First, they get her friends to turn on her. Then they split up her relationship with Aaron Samuels.
She's cheating on you.
They trick her into eating weight-gaining bars.
What?
They make you gain weight like crazy.
But the real sneaky thing in all of this was that Katie was changing along the way too.
You're the one who made me like this so you could use me for your 8th grade revenge. So why are you still messing with Regina, Katie? I'll tell you why. Because you are a mean girl. You're a bitch.
In trying to take over as the new queen bee, Katie throws this massive party. And this is where it all hits the fan. Regina shows up. She sees that Katie's trying to take her throne, take her ex, trying to take her spot. And she plots the ultimate revenge.
It's our burn book. So we cut out girls' pictures from the yearbook, and then we wrote comments.
Trang Pak is a grotesque little biatch.
All hell breaks loose. So the teachers are trying to get them under control. They gather all the girls in the auditorium. Tina Fey has them do a trust exercise. And Janice decides to reveal the whole fake friendship get back at Regina plot. Katie and Regina run out of the school fighting.
Oh! Do you know what everyone says about you? They say that you're a homeschooled jungle freak who's a less hot version of me. Yeah, so don't try to act so innocent. You can take that fake apology and shove it right up your hairy...
But it's not where the story ends. Katie has to live with the consequences of everything she's been through so far in the school year. And as part of her comeuppance, she has to be a part of the Mathletes. And at the Mathletes tournament, she finally understands that putting other girls down is never going to lift herself up.
All you can do in life is try to solve the problem in front of you.
So the movie culminates with her reconciling with everyone, and I mean everyone, at the Spring Fling dance.
Why is everybody stressing over this thing? I mean, it's just plastic. It's really just... Share it.
I mean, absolutely iconic. 10 out of 10. I mean, there's a reason this movie still holds up today and is being readapted 20 years later. It offers such a real reflection of the female social hierarchy and how girls work to keep that up, while also just being a really solid story, so well written, dramatic, heartwarming, absolutely hilarious. I mean, every single bit of this movie is funny. From the second it opens, with the scene with her parents talking down at her like she's a little kid.
Do you remember your phone number? I wrote it down for you just in case.
To the end when they joke about what they'll do with the new plastics.
We knew how to take care of it.
And of course, every little bit in between.
I have a nephew named Anthony, and I know how mad he gets when I call him Anthony. Almost as mad as I get when I think about the fact that my sister named him Anthony.
And the jokes that build throughout the movie, like the whole thing about Janice being a lesbian when it was actually just Regina misunderstanding that she was Lebanese.
Puerto Rican? Lebanese.
And that's not even to mention how many quotes from this movie are just a part of pop culture now.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die.
Get in, loser. We're going shopping.
Boo, you whore.
I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
And none for Gretchen Wieners. Bye.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
I swear I quote this movie too much, especially that one line. Oh my god, why are you so obsessed with me? Stop following me. Why are you so obsessed with me? Why will this guy not leave me alone? Oh my god. Why is he so obsessed with me? I am kind of shocked that we didn't see such a successful movie get a full console or handheld video game adaptation. This movie came out in 2004, a year when even poor performing movies were getting video game releases. This was also the same year the Nintendo DS was released, which would have been perfect for a Mean Girls video game. I mean, I'm not totally surprised that they didn't release a Mean Girls video game right on release. They didn't know it would be such a smash hit, and that they don't typically make these girly movies into video games. But actually, in 2009, we were slated to get a Nintendo DS release of the Mean Girls video game. But for some reason, even though the game was announced and even rated, it never made it out of development. However, we can thank YouTuber Ray Mona for working to find this lost media and reassemble it. She's got a full long play of the entire game over on her channel, as well as her process in documenting and finding this game, which I'll link to below. It's really fascinating. This gameplay footage is coming from their channel. I won't go too deep into this since you can watch her analysis if you're interested, but in a quick summary, it might be okay that this game wasn't released. The game seems to be a visual novel of the movie, with some pretty lame minigames thrown in. I've played my fair share of girly games with bad minigames, but these are just so boring. Here, add some numbers together as a mathlete. Or throw some paper planes at Miss Norbury. Remember everyone's favorite scene in the movie where Katie helps Janice pack customer orders at the store? Oh, no? Don't remember that one? Yeah, me neither. Usually one of the fun things you can do in a girl game is at least pick your outfits or makeup. But in these minigames, you have to pick the correct makeup. How is this even fun? Guess I'll never know. Even though the DS game looked a little boring to me, the PC game that actually got released wasn't much better. Mean Girls High School Showdown was released as part of this OMG High School 3-game pack for PC in 2009. What? This is not the Mean Girls aesthetic. I will say, right off the bat, the intro song for this absolutely slaps. It's written and performed by Kay Hanley, who was the singer in Letters to Cleo, but they never released this song on its own, which is wild to me because it is such a bop. What else is wild is that you aren't playing as Katie, per se, but you can pick from these 4 archetypal avatars to play as, who I guess kinda resemble Katie? Maybe they didn't have the rights to her image? Oh, maybe nobody really looks right. As for gameplay, you go around the school talking to people following the basic story of Mean Girls. And in almost every single interaction, you do one of these puzzle quest bejeweled battles. There are two ways to win these battles. You can kill them with kindness, or you can be a true mean girl. Matching hearts makes them like you more, eventually causing the opponent to surrender to you, while matching whips, whips, beats them into submission. I gotta be honest, it took me an embarrassing number of battles before I figured out how the battle system worked. It has a lot of different power-ups depending on the types of things you match, but it's really not that complicated. And the battles take a while, too. Some of these battles last several minutes. Like, there are battles that took 60, 70 rounds to get the win. Just to give you a little perspective on this, each battle probably takes, on average, 3 to 5 minutes, and this game took me 4 hours to beat. 4 hours of walking from battle match to 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 battle match. I'm not joking, that's the entire gameplay. Now, the story of the game mostly matches the plot of the movie, like getting Aaron to find Regina cheating on him, but adds in a bunch of new ancillary characters just to milk the playtime. Like some girl named Patty who wants to fight you because she's into Kevin G. Boy, she's really not gonna like how the Mean Girls movie ends. Or a bunch of random slackers who Miss Norbury asks you to round up and bring to class so that she can get a bonus, I guess? But most of it is Janice telling you to get more info on the plastics to use against them. Until like the last 20 minutes of the game when they decide to follow the plot of the movie again. You get Karen and Gretchen to turn on Regina, battling them all, and obviously Regina distributes the burn book, so you battle a bunch of randos. And then we have the auditorium scene where you battle Regina again, and get this. But that's not all, folks. Instead of having that fight be the end, now Janice decides you're too plastic and you have to battle her as the final boss. Noticeably missing from this is the end iconic Spring Fling dance, which even the DS game included. Plus, whether you beat people in the nice way or the mean way affects the outcome. Even though throughout 90% of the game I was beating people in the nice way, I beat Janice at the very end in the mean way, which means I got the mean ending. Janice and I do not end up friends at the end, and apparently I rule the school with an iron fist. I was not expecting the game to have an alternate ending scenario, and that's where it ends. Overall, I found the game pretty bland, and I was getting extremely worried around the 3-hour mark about how many battles I was going to have to endure. I wouldn't recommend it unless you really like that style of puzzle game. But even worse than all that, there's a now discontinued iOS game that was just a tower defense game. I don't know that any of these games are really worth tracking down and playing. It seems like so many movie tie-in games are just cash grabs that really phone it in, and they're lower quality than most other games. And this is also a pattern you see with girly games, so this is kind of a double jeopardy of bad gameplay. I'm still semi-optimistic about the other two games in this, the Clueless and Pretty in Pink games, and I absolutely will be getting to those at some point. But first we have to talk about the book Mean Girls is based on. Did you know Mean Girls is based on a book? 'Cause I didn't until I was rewatching the movie and I saw it there in the credits, plain as day. Queen Bees and Wannabes, helping your daughter survive cliques, gossip, boyfriends, and other realities of adolescence. You want to know the real kicker, though? It's not really based on a book. At least not in the sense that Harry Potter or Eat, Pray, Love is based on a book. This book is a non-fiction parenting guide. This book will let you in. It'll show how to help your daughter deal with the nasty things girls do to one another and minimize the negative effects of what's often an invisible war behind girls' friendships. It's just a parenting advice book. It has no linear narrative to it. Now, we can see where Tina Fey, who wrote the screenplay, did get some ideas for structures in the movie. The Queen Bee, for the girl whose popularity is based off fear and control. Think of a combination between the Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland and Barbie. I call her the Queen Bee. The sidekick. She's the lieutenant, or second in command. The girl who's closest to the Queen Bee and will back her no matter what because her power depends on the confidence she gets from the Queen Bee. All girls in a clique tend to dress similarly, but the sidekick wears the most identical clothes and shares the mannerisms and overall style closest to the queen bee. The banker. Information about each other is currency in girl world. The banker creates chaos everywhere she goes by banking information about other girls in her social sphere and dispensing it at strategic levels for her own benefit. Much like Lindsay Lohan structures in the movie, the book also structures everything around girl world.
Having lunch with the plastics was like leaving the actual world and entering girl world.
It also goes into other social structures around girls, like parental archetypes. The hip parent. This parent will do anything to be liked by the daughter and her friends. This is the parent who buys beer for parties during high school, often justifying this behavior.
I'm not like a regular mom, I'm a cool mom.
Even the Tina Fey hand-raising scene does come straight out of this book.
Okay, everybody close
I start the class by asking the girls to close their eyes and answer by show of hands how many of them had a friend gossip about them, backstab them, or be exclusive. All hands immediately shoot up. I ask the girls to keep their hands up and open their eyes. They laugh.
Now, close your eyes again.
Then I have them close their eyes again and ask them how, by a show of hands, how many of them have gossiped, backstabbed, or been exclusive about a friend. Much more slowly, some bending from the elbow instead of extending their hand, all the hands go up.
Open.
Tell them to keep their hands up and open their eyes. They laugh again, but nervously. After about 5 minutes or so, without exception, the following occurs. A girl, usually generically pretty and surrounded by 4 or 5 girls, will raise her hand and defiantly say, "Miss Wiseman, the girls in this grade are not exclusive, and we don't have cliques. People hang out with the people they want to. We just all have our own friends."
Can I just say that we don't have a clique problem at this school?
Without exception, 3 things will be true about this girl. First, she'll always be one of the meanest, most exclusive girls in the room.
How many of you have ever felt personally victimized by Regina George?
Second, she honestly believes what she's saying. And third, her parents will be in total denial about how mean she is.
Good.
Also straight out of the book are the maps that Janice draws for Lindsay Lohan. You have to pause and read these maps because in the book, they're actually hilarious. The author had girls draw out maps of their school. So this is a real girls providing perspective on their life. It does give a breakdown a lot like Janice does in the movie. And one of the most iconic lines in this movie comes straight from the book, from the mouth of a 15-year-old girl. "We have rules about what we wear. You can only wear your hair up like in a ponytail once a week. You can't wear a tank top 2 days in a row. You can only wear jeans on Friday, and that's also the only time you can wear sneakers.
If you break any of these rules, you can't sit with us at lunch."
So there are those examples, but the weirdest part to me is actually how much credit the book does get for inspiring the movie. I've kind of had a hard time organizing my thoughts around this because on the one hand, the movie does take a lot of the archetypes and some direct lines straight from the book. On the other hand, the book doesn't tell a story. It's just categorizations of the real world and put into this girl world framing. For a few years now, the author Rosalind Wiseman has been painting this picture that she's been treated really unfairly as the author of the book, but I don't think that's totally fair. Yes, she may have been screwed over in some contracts and not getting some of the residuals that the studio promised her, but she did get $400,000 up front for the rights to this novel. It's not a novel! It's not a novel! It's just a book! It's a parenting book. She made $400,000 up front for the rights to this book. It is absolutely not the plot of Mean Girls. It was an inspiration, and it gave a little bit of framework. I mean, how many non-fiction parenting books become movies? I can only think of one example off the top of my head, and that's What to Expect When You're Expecting. And that was not a very good movie. It had an amazing cast, and they couldn't even get that movie to work. It's just not very well written. Mean Girls, on the other hand, is very well written, is very funny, and still holds up 20 years later. I mean, if anything, I feel like the author really won the lottery, because even if she doesn't get all of her residuals, people are going to know the name of this book. People are going to check it out from the library 20 years later. I have to return this today because somebody else has this on hold, so I can't renew it. So I'm sure that you've gotten speaking engagements and tons of visibility just from having your name associated with this movie. All of this is to say, my real question is, at what point does something become an original work? Because over time with this franchise, we just get farther and farther away from the original source material. Yes, she did take some quotes and some character outlines from the book. And they do lean on the book in that sense that it does deserve some of the credit. But how close do we need to fly to give things credit? Did the 15-year-old girl who wrote "You can't sit with us at lunch" get any compensation for her line? If I see a news article about two trains that crash into each other, and I write a romantic comedy about two trains that are in love but can never meet, and at the end they meet in a fiery love car crash, do I owe the New York subway system compensation? I just don't know. And part of the reason I ask is because Mean Girls 2, the sequel, does not credit the book in its credit sequence. Then again, it's pretty offensive that Mean Girls 2 is named after the original movie, because it is nothing like the first movie. The only returning cast member is Tim Meadows, and he is the only good thing about that movie. Oh yeah, did you guys know Mean Girls has a sequel? It's really bad. It was a direct-to-television TV special on ABC Family, and ooh boy, does it feel like one.
Stay down there and don't ever look at me again.
So if you haven't seen it, 1, I really would not recommend it. And 2, I don't want to go super in-depth with it because there are a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about this movie. But I do want to look at what they were trying to do as compared to the first movie. Mean Girls 2 released in 2011, 7 years after the original. And it is bad. No. Well, no, it's bad. Yeah, no, it's bad. This girl Jo is starting at a new school and is being paid to pretend to be friends with Abby by her dad, but all the plastics hate Abby and they have a whole mean girl war. It's like the first movie, but different. It even starts really weird. They do the thing where they start in the middle of the story as if it's some kind of epic, but instead you're just kind of confused.
Abby needs you. We need you. And we're willing to pay.
And it's so weird because it's not like Mean Girls opened this way. Mean Girls opens with her first day of school talking to her parents and does a quick flashback to Africa and then right into the story. Which this movie does do just after the annoying trope of, let's go back to the beginning.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning.
Okay, so you have this girl Jo, who's played by Tess from Camp Rock. And she is such a walking, not like other girls 2011 stereotype.
One rule for survival. No girl drama. Not really into drama, but I do know you have an advanced shop class. Maybe you were right. Girls aren't so bad after all. Ignore the pigtails. I was more naive back then.
Wow, okay. Anyway, her main and pretty much only personality trait is that she's really into cars and helps her dad rebuild them for NASCAR races. So obviously, she drives a scooter. And much like Katie, who in the first movie uses wild animal analogies to help understand girl world,
Being at Old Orchard Mall kind of reminded me of being home in Africa, by the watering hole, when the animals are in heat.
Jo uses car analogies to understand high school.
Like the muscle cars who think they own the road and check out every passing vehicle. Smart cars who don't fit in. The I'm so perky I might shake off my tube top cutesy cars.
But Jo has been in the schooling system her whole life. She says she's been to a dozen or so schools. She moves around a lot. So she understands the social systems in place. She doesn't need this car analogy.
And then there's the most dangerous vehicle on the road. The high-performance, high-maintenance sports cars.
So then Jo explains the plastics to us. She's somehow already aware of their existence and their one-dimensional personality traits on this, her first day at this new school. They so obviously wanted these to be clear parallels between the original plastics and these plastics, but they really aren't.
Cassidy, make out with the student intern in the front office. Get Jo's file. Hope, stalk her. I want to know everything.
You're like really pretty.
Thank you.
So you agree?
What?
You think you're really pretty?
She's kind of pretty, don't you think? Well, if you're into pleather.
Mandy, who's played by that girl from Cory in the House, isn't so much a Regina George as she is a Sharpay Evans.
Yeah, 1 week in LA and I'll be a bikini model, reality star, awesome.
Chastity's supposed to be like a dumb Karen type, which they try to get across by just making her really promiscuous. And also giving her the dumbest lines I've ever heard in my life.
Is that what I think it is?
Duck. I love ducks. Do not play dumb with me. I don't have to play dumb.
And if Chastity looks familiar to you, it's probably because she was in that show H2O. You guys remember that? Where the water turns the girls into mermaids and they're always going, "Oh no, Cleo!"
Oh no. Oh no. I'm feeling dizzy.
And finally we have Hope, who was Missy Misa on the Jonas TV show.
It's the boys who shall not be named.
Who I think is supposed to be a Gretchen type, but it doesn't super come across. She does have the role of banker, much like Gretchen did.
Her name is Jo Mitchell. She's in my bio class. Somebody said she came somewhere from like Florida or Texas. Then I also heard that she's an exchange student from Russia.
Oh, what did they exchange her for?
But other than that, shares nothing in common with Gretchen. Instead, the main trait they give her is germaphobe. We also meet the opposite of the plastics, Harper from Wizards of Waverly Place. Her name is Abby, and she's supposed to be like an outsider friend type like Janice, but she's kind of the anti-Janice.
Can go from bad to worse. You okay? How bad do I look?
She is overly nice.
I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'm really sorry, Mandy. I'll buy you another purse. Or you can just have mine.
Bad things happen to her for no reason. The only thing that Abby and Janice have in common is that they're both into art. Janice was actively mean all throughout the Mean Girls movie.
Now, look, this isn't about hating her, okay? I just think that it would be like a fun little experiment if you were to hang out with them and then tell us everything that they say.
The thing about Abby is that she's not mean. Like, at no point in this Mean Girls 2 does she do Mean Girls things. Which is one of the central tenets of the original movie, that everybody is mean. Many people have brought this up as a point of failure of the 2024 Mean Girls as well, that not everybody is mean. But I will give the movie this. When the Mean Girls are mean, they're really mean. Sure, it starts small with the plastics having some guys paintball Abby's car, which apparently makes it undrivable, so Joe gives her a ride on the moped. Then they put industrial glue on her little scooter seat so she gets stuck to it. And this is kind of an interesting point where they flip the script from the original Mean Girls. When Katie and Janice first try to bully Regina by cutting holes in her shirt, Regina just rocks the look and makes it seem really cool. And then they have Joe do the same thing here. When the plastics glue her to her seat, Joe rides her bike through the school so she can get out of her pants in the bathroom and wears Abby's art smock, which makes her a legend for biking through the school and making the art smock a huge fashion statement. But by far, the worst thing that the Mean Girls do is put sugar packets into the NASCAR gas tank that her dad is working on for his real-life job.
It's ruined. The whole motor's gummed up.
What? What happened? It was running perfectly yesterday.
I don't know. Maybe it's the fuel, a faulty part. It doesn't matter because Jimmy and the boys are expecting a trial run tomorrow.
The original Mean Girls was a lot of psychological warfare that only took place within the high school ecosystem, but in this one they start to operate outside of that with very real-world consequences and very, very expensive results that affect a lot of other people outside of their high school ecosystem. So with all of that going on, Jo swings hard in the other direction and she creates the anti-plastics, making her a lot more of a direct antagonist to the plastics rather than Katie's covert antagonism. So as I was editing this, I noticed something really interesting about the actor dynamics between Mean Girls and Mean Girls 2. I noticed in this scene where Jo goes to yell at Mandy about the sugar in the gas tank, you see Mandy recoil as she's getting screamed at.
You spoiled narcissistic bitch!
One of the really interesting things in Mean Girls is you can feel the power Regina has over Katie. In the book So Fetch, The Making of Mean Girls and Why We're Obsessed with It, they say this about the Lindsay Lohan-Rachel McAdams dynamic. Waters knew McAdams would crush it, but something even more interesting happened when the two actresses came together. Not only did McAdams inhabit the lines perfectly, she also seemed to intimidate Lohan. In his experience with Lohan so far, she usually dominated everyone, commanded a room. When she was with McAdams, that changed. But maybe they didn't want these dynamics. Maybe they actually wanted the plastics to be threatened by the anti-plastics. But it doesn't really pack the same punch. And Joe does get the plastics to turn on Mandy, but in just the most bizarre ways possible. She sends anonymous notes to Principal Duval about Chastity making out with boys in the hall. So he takes a bunch of pictures of her making out with the boys? It is so weird. It doesn't make any sense at all. And she gets Mandy to turn on Hope by adding green dye to her facial. Which is honestly, it's way more mean than when Katie gave Regina that foot cream for her face. It didn't dye her face to look like a foot. And much like Regina gets the ultimate payback by releasing the burn book, Mandy gets payback by finding out that Joe was being paid to be Abby's friend and puts it all over the school newspaper, and also frames Joe for stealing the homecoming dance charity fund.
How did that get there?
And I gotta say, this doesn't really feel fair because Mandy did so much worse things to Joe with so much more real-world consequences. You know how Joe wants to decide to settle this once and for all? Plastics versus anti-plastics?
So we're gonna settle this like men. On the battlefield.
Oh, please.
That's right. I challenge you to a football game.
This movie is just so stupid. Like, I haven't even told you the worst of it. This is all surface level stuff. I haven't even told you the dozens of weird other things this movie goes through. Like Mandy throwing her dog in the trash, or the unexplainable use of constant gross out humor, or when Joe goes on a date with whatever his name is and they just play this weird photo montage the whole time. It tries so lazily to be its own thing while leeching off the IP of a much, much better movie. The end of the movie culminates in a school dance similar to the original movie, but nothing eventful really happens here.
Stop your dancing, stop your fun. Stop it right now. Quiet down. Quieter.
There isn't even the coming together like there is in the first one. Abby wins Homecoming Queen.
Here. No! Don't reach for me. No. Get out of here. You're not.
And then we get the whole "Here's Life Now" sequence.
Chastity finally looked up her name and joined the Abstinence Club. Sometimes it just takes a little girl drama to find out who your friends are.
The biggest failure of this movie, other than being a bad, unfunny, shameless cash grab of a movie, is just how fake it feels.
Elliot hasn't stopped staring at you all night.
Really? But he's Elliot.
I was in high school in 2011, and even though I think I went to a particularly chill high school, there is no way that it was actually like this for people. I mean, you should be able to tell that by their horrid middle school dance outfits that they wear all throughout the movie. Who picked the costumes for this? None of this would be worn by senior high school girls in 2011. It's just so far removed from reality for me. Not that the original Mean Girls was 100% true, but it was based in reality off of real social structures from the non-fiction book. And that was way closer to real high school than this Disneyfication we see of Hollywood high school in this movie, including the horrible trope of the fake social media sites they have working throughout this whole movie.
Another video. Look, it's that new girl, Jo. She totally bailed Abby out.
Oh, who is this girl? Some badass biker chick?
There's tons of comments.
No, really? This to me is also one of the biggest failures in the 2024 adaptation of Mean Girls. The distance removed from reality and the bad social media usage. In January 2024, they released a new adaptation of Mean Girls. But this is not a remake of the original movie like a lot of people thought it was going to be. It's actually an adaptation of the Broadway musical that was based on the original movie. So it's like one step removed. I mean, the plot is basically the same, just with added musical numbers. But I did not care for this one. I actually went to go see this one in theaters, and I was pretty disappointed about it. But I'll let past me, who actually went to go see the movie, tell you about it. Alright, I just watched the new Mean Girls, and I wanted to get my thoughts out because I won't remember later. But I did not really like the new Mean Girls. Mostly because it's not really a comedy anymore. This one is like, it's a drama. And a musical. I don't know. There was no emotional punch, really, ever. And I feel like the story was not as well developed because we spent so much time singing. And the singing was not emotional. Everybody seemed so bored when they were singing. And it was just super overproduced. It was Broadway, but it was really like, what if Disney made a PG-13 or an R-rated movie? That's how it felt to me. The first one is so much better. It's so much funnier. They removed a lot of the jokes and they subbed in some new jokes, but like every joke that they kept in every iconic line from the first movie. And that's it. There were like 5 other jokes outside of that. It just wasn't that funny. Kind of disappointing. Now, I have seen clips from the actual Broadway play where the musical numbers worked and felt entertaining.
Every single day, and also have world peace. Maybe world peace should be first. It's world peace and then Halloween. Wait, let me start over.
But I just don't think it translates on screen.
Halloween every single day, and also have world peace. Maybe world peace should be first. World peace and then Halloween. Wait, let me start over.
It feels like it works in the Broadway version, but the movie version feels hollow. And for me, the whole movie kind of feels like that. Just hollow and lost in translation. But it's better than Mean Girls 2, so I can't complain too much. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time when we go through Clueless and Pretty in Pink.